Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, we're slightly different today. We're having problems with our IT equipment, so we're actually coming to you via one of the links in one of the offices. So it is slightly different. But welcome to the Cabinet meeting of Wednesday, the 14th of October 2020. It is being live streamed. I will now ask all Cabinet members and scrutiny members present to introduce themselves in turn. I'm Councillor Maria Crompton and I'm Deputy Leader of Sandwell Council. Councillor Rawlins.
Councillor Nassim Ali, Cabinet Member for Resources and Core Services.
Councillor Alcock. Do we have Councillor Alcock? I can't see his picture. I'll come back to him.
Apologies for Councillor Alcock. He's on leave this week.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Underhill. Okay, Councillor Millard.
Councillor Danny Millard, Cabinet Member for Inclusive Economic Growth.
Thank you. Councillor Padder.
Councillor Iqbal Padder, Cabinet Member for Community Engagement and Equality.
Thank you. Councillor Shaheen.
Councillor Farrokh Shaheen, Cabinet Member for Living Healthy Lives.
Thank you. Councillor Singh.
Councillor Rajbir Singh, Cabinet Member for Skills and Employment.
Councillor Taylor.
Good afternoon, Councillor Jackie Taylor, Cabinet Member for Sustainable Transport.
Thank you. Councillor Underhill.
Councillor Joyce Underhill, Cabinet Member for the Best Starting.
We'll move to the scrutiny chairs. Councillor Luke Giles. No? Oh yes, I can see him. Is your mic on, Councillor Giles?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear.
Hello?
Yeah, I can see you.
Councillor Luke Giles, Chair of Budget and Corporate Scrutiny Management Board.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giles. Councillor Moore?
Doesn't look like we've got Councillor Moore, Chair.
No? Okay. Councillor Priest? No?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Councillor Rawlins? I've seen Councillor Rawlins. She's here somewhere.
Councillor Laura Rawlins, Chair of the Scrutiny Board for Economy, Skills, Transport and Environment. Thank
you, Councillor Rawlins. Okay, we'll move on to the agenda now. Apologies for absence. The only one I've got here is Councillor Giles.
And Councillor Alcock, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, members to declare any interests in matters to be discussed at the meeting. Do any members have any interests to declare? No? Okay. And agenda item 3, the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of September 2020 are presented. I move them as a correct record. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ali, can you confirm they're a correct record?
Yes, I'm happy to second the minutes.
Thank you, they're approved. Cabinet members, are they approved?
Hi.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 4, additional items of business. We do not appear to have any additional items of business today. I'm going to change the order of the agenda slightly as to consider agenda item 11 next. We move on to agenda item 11, Highways Winter Service Operational Plan 2020-21. Can I ask Councillor Taylor to present the report, please?
Thank you, Councillor Crompton. Before I start with introducing this report, I'd like to place on record my thanks to very many people that work on our highway systems, usually those that are working while we are asleep throughout the winter and they are out at work, keeping our highways safe and ready for us to go to work in the morning. So on record, I'd like to place my thanks. In terms of the approval for the Winter Service Plan 2020-2021, this report seeks approval for the Winter Service Plan. Our highways, Councillor Crompton, plays an important role in the life of our community. They connect our residents to employment, education, local services, and indeed the wider world. They enable economic growth, social mobility, and are vital in ensuring good health outcomes. The Council has a statutory duty to ensure, so far as reasonably practically, that safe use of highways is not endangered by snow or ice. The duty is not absolute and must be with due care and regard to best practice guidance. This winter service plan sets out the policy, service standards and operational arrangements for an efficient, effective and proportionate response to winter conditions and reflect the advice and recommendations contained in the Code of Practice for Highway Maintenance, well-maintained highway infrastructure. The Cabinet Approval Winter Plan. I ask for Cabinet approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do we have any questions?
Councillor Rawlins.
Councillor Rawlins?
Thank you. It was just an administrative on 3.2 that it's seeking approval for the Winter Operational Plan 2019-20, which I assume should be 2021.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Rawlins. That is obviously a slight error there. To be fair, the winter provision is always very, very important in Sandwell, as we've got some really steep hills here in some places, and we couldn't do without that. And the team works, I do realise, very, very hard. So I'm happy. Are the recommendations approved? Can I ask for members to raise their hand function to indicate if they approve of this recommendation? Okay. Yeah.
You can't. You'll have to.
I can't. I have to do it this way because I can't put my hand up. My hand function. So. From what I can see of the hand functions all going up, that looks as though they're all there.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Everyone is in favour of that report, and that report is approved. I'll move back now to the agenda and go back to agenda item 5, and that is the redevelopment of King Street, Wednesbury. Can I ask Councillor Millard to present the report, please?
Deputy Leader. Yeah. Can you hear me all right? This paper, it's a follow-up report resulting from the Cabinet decision of the 18th of March 2020, which this Cabinet gave authority for an application to the Local Enterprise Partnership Funding Grant. That was to deal with a ground condition prevalent on the council-owned and controlled site at King Street, Wednesbury, and Stanhope Road in Smethwick. The funding would be committed to making these sites development ready with a view to facilitating housing delivery. And dependent upon the final approval by the council's strategic finance team, the council are now in a position to progress the King Street project and the remediation of Stanhope Road site, subject to endorsement by the Cabinet of the following recommended decisions: formally accept the LEP funded grant approved in July 2020 and commit to performing the funding conditions in relation to the groundworks which have been subject to a strategic investment unit appraisal. Upon completion of the funding agreement, immediately award the groundworks tender for King Street site, seek groundworks tenders to remediate the site at Stanhope Road in Smethwick, and subject to a successful SIU appraisal, the strategic finance approval award the contract for the building of 5 houses for the council housing stock on King Street, and then subject to another successful SIU appraisal, the strategic finance approval award the contract for the building of a health centre on King Street site, all simultaneously with the award of the build contract agreed is to create the health centre to the NHS on terms favourable to the council. And that's the report.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Millard. Do we have any questions? No? Okay. In that case, are we happy to approve the recommendations? Can you use your hand function again, please, to see that you are happy, Cabinet? Here's my hand. There my hand goes up.
That's 8 hands, Chair.
Okay. Okay, well that looks as though that everyone's happy with that and everyone's in favour, so that that report is approved. Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 6, which is urban design and building services, water hygiene services. That's Councillor Millard again, please. Let's go.
There we go. My unmute button wasn't working effectively. Maybe it thought I'd talked too much already. But thankfully for you guys, this is my last report today. And it's only a brief one. It's to seek the approval of the award of contracts for the water hygiene service following the completion of an appropriate procurement process. Services are currently provided by the Solihull Partnership Framework, which will end on the 31st of December in 2020. The council will now directly be procuring the framework providers for water hygiene service, which are aligned with a more effective service delivery model targeted specifically towards our needs as Samuel as a council. The approval to award these contracts will continue to keep the council compliant with the statutory requirements to manage water hygiene in all of our buildings, whilst gaining management benefits and efficiencies from a bespoke data system, which will also offer long-term savings as opposed to the traditional delivery of the service under the previous Solihull contract. So I move the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Millard. Do we have any questions? No, can't see any questions. Okay, in that case, are we happy to approve that report? Can you use your hand function again, please, Cabinet, so we can see? Okay, are they all there?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. In that case, everyone seems to be in approval of that, so that is approved. So we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is the award of contracts for a promoting independence care at home service. And that is Councillor Shaheen to present the report, please.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can we see you, Councillor Shaheen?
Hang on. Trying to read on top of that. I'll put the video on. One moment.
Okay.
Can you see me?
That's better. That's better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The Promoting Independence Care at Home service, more commonly known as Domiciliary Care, enables vulnerable people to receive a more timely response to referrals, assessments and discharge from hospitals, or a quick intervention to prevent an admission to an acute setting. There are 3 contracts currently and they will end 2nd of February 2021. A tender process did commence in September 2020 to ensure the service continues, and a cabinet paper has been drafted to seek approval to award contracts to 3 tenderers should they get through to the tender process for the period 3rd of February 2021 to 2nd of February 2023, with an option to extend for a further year. While there are other contracts that can provide this service, they are paid on activity or spot purchased, which means that the providers can be more tardy in commencing services. The provision of this service under a block of contract ensures that the commence date is quicker, thereby mitigating risk to individuals. And with that, I recommend this report for approval to Cabinet. Thank you.
Shaheen, do we have any questions? No, I don't see any hands going up. Okay, in that case, is everyone in favour of the report? Can the Cabinet raise their hands if they're in favour?
Everyone, Chair.
Okay, thank you everyone. That everyone's in favour, so that report is approved. So we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is procurement of trusted assessor services contract, and that's again Councillor Shaheen.
Okay. The Trusted Assessor Services is the key component of the National High Impact Change Model that local Better Care Fund programmes are required to implement in partnership with local authorities. The NHS local community care providers, in order to support the timely transfer of patients to the most appropriate care setting and to effect a reduction in the number of delayed transfers of care. In brief, a trusted assessment is an assessment that has been completed by an independent care professional who is trusted to undertake assessments on behalf of other organisations. The service contributes significantly to reducing local hospital discharge delays for vulnerable people and ensures that assessments for their or ongoing care needs are carried out in a community setting rather than in a hospital, a process known as discharge to assess. The current service, offering 53 hours of assessment capacity each week, is due to an end on the 11th of November 2020, and Cabinet is asked to support an extension for these services to 31st of March 2021. The success of this service during the COVID pandemic, combined with an increasing national focus on discharge to assess as a default model for managing hospital delays, means that the service will need to gear up to meet higher levels of demand in future. Accordingly, Cabinet is asked to support the Council entering into a formal tender process for a new extended service commencing in April 2020. A contract term of 2 years with an option to extend for a further year is recommended. And with that, I recommend this report for approval.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaheen. Do we have any questions? Excuse me. No? Okay, in that case, I will ask if members approve that report. Can you raise your hands again, please, if you approve?
That's everyone, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Everyone's in favour, so that report is approved. We'll move on to agenda item 9, which is the new pre and post dementia diagnosis support service. Again, that is Councillor Shaheen to present that report, please.
Okay. Sandwell Borough Council and Sandwell and West Birmingham Clinical Commissioning Groups are committed to improving support for those who are living with the effects of dementia and their families. Across the borough, as part of this commitment, a refreshed Better Lives Dementia Strategy was launched in November 2019, and the Cabinet is now asked to support the action plan for delivering the services that will enable people living with dementia to live healthy and fulfilling lives in their communities for as long as possible. Specifically, Cabinet is asked to support the Council entering into a formal procurement for a new pre and post dementia diagnoses support services commencing in April 2021. The service will operate over 7 days between 8 AM and 8 PM, and a contract term of 2 years with an option to extend for a further year is recommended. And with that, I recommend the Cabinet report, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaheen. Do we have any questions on that one? No? Okay. In that case, can we see if the Cabinet approves that report, please? Yeah.
That's
okay,
approved, Chair.
Thank you. Everyone's in favour, so that report is approved. So we move on to agenda item 10, which is Childcare Sufficiency Report 2020-21. Councillor Underhill, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to request Cabinet to consider the 7 recommendations of the Sandwell Childcare Sufficiency Report 2020-2021 and recommend that a childcare strategic action plan for 2020-2021 be implemented and monitored by the Early Years Strategic Group, with progress being reported termly through the extended divisional management team meeting run by the Director of Education, Skills and Employment. Local authorities under the Children and Families Act 2014 have to report annually to elected members on how they are meeting their duty to secure sufficient childcare places and make the report available and accessible to parents. I'm happy to say that the 7 recommendations, there are no further budgeting implications for this, and this report is presented within the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, which has had a big impact not only on jobs but also in the private nursery provision. So this is something that we've got to really keep an eye on to ensure that we have sufficient places when needed. I recommend this to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Underhill. I totally agree with what you're saying there. Are we made amendments? Are we going to approve that report? I'm getting my tongue in a knot here. So, Cabinet, are you happy to approve that report, please?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. That report is approved. And we move on to agenda item 12, which is assertive outreach for treatment resident individuals. And that's Councillor Shaheen again.
Okay. Our assertive outreach work for treatment-resistant clients is better known as the Blue Light Project. The project is aimed at people experiencing long-standing and complex problems with alcohol who previously not engaged well with services. Severe alcohol-related problems impact not only on the individual themselves, but also their families and on the resources of a range of services, including the council, the NHS and the police. The Blue Light Project wraps support around the individuals and addresses their needs in a holistic way. That is, we don't just focus on the alcohol problems, but also on any health, social or criminal justice issues that they may be dealing with. It's been evaluated independently and found to deliver significant financial savings across the public sector system. The Sandwell Blue Light Project won 2 national awards recently, the Guardian Public Service Award and the Royal Society of Public Health Award. This Cabinet paper is about the funding of the Blue Light Project. The project has been awarded funding from the Better Care Fund and is aligned with the main adult alcohol drug treatment service budget and contract. The current Blue Light funding lasted 4 months longer than the previous alcohol and drug treatment contract. So this paper seeks approval to transfer the remaining 4 months of funding to the new extended alcohol and drug contract. This would mean a variation on the new extended contract to the value of $35,560, taking this up to 31st of May 2021. And with that, I recommend this report for approval to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Shaheen. Do we have any questions? No? Okay. In that case, can you put your hands up if you are happy to approve this report, please, Cabinet?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. That report is approved. So we move on now to the last item on the agenda, which is agenda item 13, which is procurement of leasehold building insurance and tenant contents insurance. And that's Councillor Ali, please.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. So this report is in respect of procurement for 2 areas of insurance cover. Number 1, first matter is requesting approval to conduct an open market procurement process for an insurance policy for the council's flats that have been sold under lease agreements. By taking out this insurance, it ensures that the leases has adequate insurance in place in the event of an incident which may cause damage to their property as well as the council's property. This procurement is for a period of 3 years with the option to extend for a further 2 years. Approval for delegated responsibility to the acting Section 151 officer to award the contract for this insurance policy is also being requested due to the period for which insurance quotes are valid. In the event that sufficient quotes are not received to comply with the minimum number of tenders as stipulated in the council's procurement rules, an exemption to this rule has also been sought from the Cabinet. Number 2, the second matter is requesting approval from the Cabinet for the continued use of the Northern Housing Consortium Framework Agreement for tenants' contents insurance. The Council is a member of the Northern Housing Consortium and therefore it is eligible to access this framework agreement. The request is for a further year until 31st of March 2022. Use of the framework agreement will ensure that the tenants, should they wish to do so, continue to have access to suitable context insurance cover at competitive rates. Both of the insurance schemes are administered by the home ownership and rent control teams to collect the necessary funds from the leases and tenants through the housing revenue account. I'm happy to put this report to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Do we have any questions on this report? No? Okay. In that case, I'll move to see if it's approved. Cabinet, do we approve of this report? And all the hands that David?
6. With one short, Chair.
Who we're missing? 6.
Councillor Shaheen, it's the one that we're missing, I think. Oh, no.
Go. Yeah. That's everybody, Chair.
Yeah, put it on and went back off.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In that case, everyone is in approval, so that report recommendation is approved. Thank you, everyone, for that. And thank you, everyone. As I say, it's been slightly different today, and it's a bit more casual, maybe, than normal. But hopefully, it will be back to normal at our next meeting. So thank you, everyone, and we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for attending.